Welcome back to the most entertaining, electrifying, informative, and accurate hockey channel in all of the YouTubes. And if you disagree with me and you think some old schmuck from Canada's channel is better than mine, then let me tell you something. You've got to be dumb, blind, deaf, dumb, stupid, and let's just face it, poor, as well as the fact that you are probably ugly if you think that. And I know that you're listening out there, old man. I know that if you're watching this right now, you're shaking in your boots because the new generation has arrived. It is here and it is growing, and I'm coming for your spot, old man. So you better watch out, and I know you're scared because I'm better than you, and you know it. Now today, there we go. We are talking about the New York Islanders and who their best player is. Now, of course, this is a team that is it's not really built on points. They're not really built to score. They're built to play defense, and they're good at that. They're definitely good at that. So it's kind of an interesting team to look at, especially when trying to name their best player, because usually, for me at least, to go off their best player, I look at points and just overall like skill or who has the most potential to be the best. And for this team, it's kind of interesting because they're not really built for that. Sure, they want to score goals, but they're not built to do that. The Islanders' plan is to score 2 goals and keep you at 1 or none. That's how the Islanders are built, and they're good at it until this last year where they were knocked out of the playoffs. So it's an interesting way to go. It works, but with goal scoring on the rise, maybe they're gonna have to shake things up. Barry Trotz is gonna be gone now, so maybe things are going to change for the better for them to try to kickstart their goal scoring. So let's jump into it. So, of course, let's start off with Brock Nelson, the guy that has led the team in points for the last 2 years, or will tie this year, but last year and he's been a number 1 tied or whatever. 37 goals, 22 assists, 59 points. So, Brock Nelson's one of those just nitty-gritty, like, under the radar kind of guys. You don't hear about him until the playoffs start, when he is part of the Islanders team that is going to be strong in the playoffs, which they are. The Islanders' whole plan is to try to get into the playoffs during the season and then kick butt in the playoffs, and they're good at it. And Brock Nelson is a major part of that. He is probably their most important forward, probably overall. I mean, sure, guys like Anders Lee and Bailey and someone I'll get to are important, but I feel like Brock Nelson is kind of the center of all of that, all of the forwards. He has been that guy, and he's under the radar too. He just doesn't really get called out for it because he's on a team that's his points production isn't really necessary. Because for me, 37 goals is amazing. That's that is some top tier scoring right there. And his assist category would go up if he was on a different team. If he was on another team that does encourage goal scoring, this guy could easily be in the 80s of points. I think Brock Nelson's underrated. I love Brock Nelson, but let's move on from him. He has a good case to be the best. Noah Dobson is, in my eyes, up there. I feel like he's kind of pushed away between the Pelech and Pulock debate. But Noah Dobson, he got his extension, I think, recently. 51 points as a defenseman. This guy, he's young and he's amazing. 13 goals, 38 assists, 51 points. This is kind of stellar to me because it's amazing to me that a guy like Moritz Seider on the Red Wings can get 50 points on a bad team. But now you have Noah Dobson getting 51 points on an okay team. But the thing about the Islanders is that they don't encourage goal scoring, and yet he's still getting 51 points as a defenseman as well as being a good overall defenseman. Now, the one thing that does kind of push me back on that is the fact that he was in the minus numbers this last season for the Islanders, while guys like Pulock and Pelech were not. So that is kind of an interesting case where it's like, well, sure, he's getting more points, but he's in the minus. But at the same time, the Islanders weren't as good as they were in the last seasons, so maybe it's just kind of like, maybe that's what they need. Maybe the Islanders need that goal. They need that points production to change the way they're going. Because sure, I understand how the ebbs and flows of the league have gone. Goal scoring was going way, 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 way up, and then teams like the Devils realized that to counteract that and to be amazing was defense, so they shifted and everyone started to follow, so goal scoring went down, but now goal scoring is going back up finally. And I think the Islanders, sure, their idea is to be ultra defensive, but I don't think they're not ultra defensive right now. They're just kind of defensively minded. So I feel like it's counteracting that, and they need to switch if they want to be super defensive or switch to the front. And I think Dobson will be the perfect candidate to be the leader of the defensemen. Now, here's a guy that I have always had the highest praises of, and I think is terrible that he's on the Islanders, is Matt Barzal. Matt Barzal could easily be a top-tier goal scorer in the NHL. He beat Connor McDavid in the speed competition at the All-Star Game, which I know Connor McDavid probably doesn't care that much about winning the title, but it's still an amazing feat that he was able to do that. This guy, 59 points, 15 goals, 44 assists, 59 points. If this guy was on another team, let's say he was drafted by the Bruins, like I went over in that video, could you imagine what this guy could be doing with Pasternak and Marchand and between them instead of Bergeron? This guy, or not even that, if put on the second line, put him with Taylor Hall, this guy would be absolutely freaking incredible. Matt Barzal could easily be a top goal scorer in the league. He just doesn't have the team. He's just on the wrong team. He does not fit the Islanders system, I feel like. I think he is a super skilled offensive forward that needs, I think if he had a change of scenery, I would not be surprised if one year he becomes a free agent or he gets traded away to another team and he absolutely lights up. And I think people would be like, whoa, where was this all along? And I'm telling you right now, this kid has it all. If he was traded somehow to Florida, let's just give a random team, Florida picks him up, it would be incredible. Absolutely insane what Matt Barzal can do. I'm telling you right now. Look forward to that. If the Islanders decide to go offensive this season, or whenever, if they do in some season, or they trade him away, pick up Barzal in your fantasy league, because he's going to do incredible. So now I want to go to a guy that I personally don't give a lot of credit to, but at the same time, I do have to give credit to, is Ilya Sorokin. A .925 save percentage, a 2.4 goals against average. Now, in 52 games played, that's pretty good for a goaltender. Ilya Sorokin is a guy that I've always been like, I don't see him really being a top goaltender in the league. I want to see what this guy can do, because I do contradict myself when I say, like, sure, people say GAA is a team stat, but I think it also is a goalie stat. So 2.4 is not bad at all for a goalie or a team stat. A .925 is amazing for a goaltender. But it's just, for me, he is on a team that is their primary goal is to stop being scored on. And I think Sorokin's helped by that. I want to see what he can do on another team. I think he's just a victim of good circumstance, I guess, if you will. I think that's a saying. And I think Sorokin's helped out by the fact that he is on such a great team that plays defensively so well. So for me personally, Sorokin doesn't get as many claps as I think a lot of people would give him. I don't think he's overrated, but I think people do praise him a little bit too highly than I think he should. Moving on to, I wanted to choose between one of the Pelics or whatever. So I went with Ryan Pulock because he had 21 points this year in 56 games played. Which is pretty good. The reason why I chose him over the other is because Adam Pelech had he had 28 points in like 80 games played. So if he played the rest of the season, Pulock would have been the better one, which I think people do say Pulock is better than Pelech, but Pelech is still pretty good. So Ryan Pulock it would have been interesting to see, but I don't think if he played the rest of his 36 games, I think that is, for the rest of the season, if he would have caught up to Noah Dobson's 51 points. However, the thing about Ryan Pulock was that, was he the one that was a 0? Oh, shoot. Man, I don't remember. But he is more defensive-minded than Dobson. But for me personally, when it comes to deciding who I think is the best player on the team, I would say a defenseman that gets 51 points is more valuable than a guy like Ryan Pulock, especially in today's NHL. 5 or 6 years ago, I would say, okay, Pulock is probably more desirable because the NHL as a whole was different. But nowadays, I think Dobson's more important. So for me personally, who would I give? I don't have my green marker, so the black marker of brilliance. So Who is the best player on the Islanders? Well, for me personally, if I was to choose between defensemen, as I just said, Pulock, I would wipe out. Just because I think Dobson's more valuable and I think he can still grow. So, Ryan Pulock out of there. Ilya Sorokin is an amazing goaltender, but he also has Varlamov next to him, who's also really good. So, for me personally, and the way the team's built, I don't think Sorokin is as important as he could be if this team wasn't as good. So I'm going to say Sorokin out of here. Matt Barzal, Noah Dobson, and Brock Nelson. Now, between these guys, Brock Nelson is great, but I don't really think he has that potential to grow on this team. On another team, sure. But on this team, I think 59 points, 37 goals is kind of where his peak is, while a guy like Dobson and Matt Barzal can still grow. And between Barzal and Dobson, for the New York Islanders, I think Noah Dobson is their most important player, which is shocking to me as well. Matt Barzal and Brock Nelson would easily be the pick, but because they're on the New York Islanders, a team that is still overall defensively built and has a strong defensive core, and the way they're built, I think Noah Dobson, being the young, really strong defenseman, is the best thing for this team. Barzal and Brock Nelson are better, and if you told me which out of these three guys, who would you pick for your team, I would go with Barzal or Nelson over Dobson. But for the Islanders' sake, I would say Noah Dobson is their most important player, or Pulock or Pelech. For me personally, it's between Dobson, Pelech, or Pulock, or mainly just Pulock. So it's just victim of circumstances here. So I'll use that again. So that's the phrase of the day. So I guess that's all I have to say about the New York Islanders. If you like this video, please pick up your free subscription down below by hitting that red subscribe button. If you like this video, leave a like, not a dislike. You go down below to comments and tell me how absolutely stupid I am for doing what I've done today. And by the way, all that was you can figure that out for yourself. So, thank you for watching this. Until next time, I am better than you, and you know it. Owen, too sweet. I hope you have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.